Hello everyone, my name is Christian Fioff. I'm an Executive Director of ITSA, the International Token Standardization Association, and today I want to explain you how we at ITSA are classifying tokens. And for that we have the International Token Classification Framework, the ITC, that we use to identify tokens by their characteristics and then group them into different categories. First, shortly about ITHA itself. We are a non-for-profit association of German law based in Berlin. We have currently around 250 international members. They're ranging from corporates to startups, but also think tanks are heavily involved. And at the moment, next to educational articles, webinars and roundtables, we are also developing 3 standardization projects for DLT-based tokens. First, we have the International Token Identification Number, the ITIN, which is similar to the ISIN, but not for securities, but for tokens. Second, we have the International Token Classification Framework, the ITC. The video today is going to cover the ITC mainly. And finally, we have the International Token Database, the token base, in that we combine the identification data from the ITIN, we link it with the ITC, the classification data, and then finally we add third-party market data from providers such as CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko. As already said before, today's video is going to be about the International Token Classification Framework. The framework itself is being developed by the second working group of ITSA. The first one, as you can already see, is dealing with the ITIN, the second one with the ITC, the third one with the token base. And during the working group work, in the first half of the year, we are usually taking a look at the framework, and we are thinking about what new dimensions are interesting for our members. So we are actively developing new dimensions, adding new ones, and for example, the ITC in its current state has, for example, 6 dimensions, and once we're going to make the update in a few weeks, we're going to have 4 additional dimensions. And in the second half of the year, so usually in the first half, we are adding new dimensions or also adding new subcategories, more about that later, to the ITC. And in the second half, we are usually making like the field trial. And this looks like that we have often student support, but also employees are very welcomed. And together we are then classifying usually among 500 to 700 tokens according to the ITC. So we actually apply it. We are testing if the framework at its core makes sense. And then usually if there's some errors or something, we try to really like adjust it, and then that we have like a really nicely applicable framework which can be understood by everybody. And for that, I'm gonna take you to the next slide, which shows our current 6 dimensions, ranging from economic purpose to issuer industry, technological setup, legal claim, issuer type, and regulatory status EU. As I already said, there's 4 additional dimensions which will be added soon. And today's episode covers solely the economic purpose. And in that regard, we're going to talk about payment tokens, utility tokens, and investment tokens. For the other dimensions, I will do additional videos that will also cover those dimensions, so that you're also informed about what we're actually looking at these dimensions. So now we are here in the economic purpose dimension, which forms part of the economic dimensions. And as you can see here on the left, we have a hierarchy. So we have always the dimension group. In this case, it would be the economic dimensions, dimension, economic purpose. And the further we go down, the more detailed is our classification of the specific token. As I already said before, in the slide before, we have here 3 different categories. The first one is the payment tokens. The second one is the utility tokens. And the last one is the investment tokens. And as the name of the dimension already says, we are looking here for the economic purpose. So what's the token actually used for? And in that regard, we are trying to classify every token that we add to the token base according to one of these 3 different categories. And I would say we just start now with the payment tokens, because they're also the most popular ones, I guess. Bitcoin, for example, falls in the category of unpacked payment tokens. The same is the case for Dogecoin or many other proof of work based tokens which have been issued as some form of reward. And next to the unpacked payment tokens, we have the packed payment tokens. And the most popular class or subclass here is certainly the USD pegged payment tokens. In this category falls USDT, Tether, but also USDC, USD coin, or also DAI, the algorithmic stablecoin of the Maker protocol. So these are all classified as USD pegged payment tokens. We also have other fiat pegged payment tokens listed, for example, Euro pegged payment tokens, also for the renminbi or the Japanese yen. But all these three subclasses are not very populated, since there's not too many of those stable coins that has been issued so far from companies. Indeed, we have the crypto franc. So I think there might be some Swiss franc stablecoins which are quite popular. And we have also listed them in the token base, fully identified and classified. And last in the category of the payment tokens, you would have the asset-pegged payment tokens, which could become quite more relevant in the future once the ECB is about to issue their central bank digital currencies, because CBDCs will rely on a basket of different assets, and in that regard, CBDCs will be probably regarded also by ITHA as asset-pegged payment tokens. Next, we have the utility tokens, which can be differentiated in transactional utility tokens and non-transactional utility tokens. We have, for example, settlement tokens. In that category currently falls, for example, Ethereum. We had there also a discussion because there was once a governance vote. So we could have also classified it, for example, as a settlement token and a governance token. But since there was so far only one governance vote after the DAO hack, we just kept it as a simple settlement token. And now many people are often asking, yeah, but Ethereum could be also regarded as a payment token. I mean, many people do payments with Ethereum. I mean, this especially has become more popular now that there's this huge NFT boom. So most NFTs are actually priced in Ethereum. So you could also easily argue that you can use it as a payment token. But for the definition of the settlement token, it's also written down here. Basically, here we have always a questionnaire which helps us with the classification. So we have here second, is a token designed to provide a certain type of utility within a defined environment? And this is actually the case for Ethereum, because we have the Ethereum network, and within the Ethereum network, we mostly use Ethereum to purely settle transactions. And also, for example, to use smart contracts, to pay for transactions, or for example, to mint NFTs. So in that regard, we see Ethereum as like the settlement token of the Ethereum ecosystem, instead of just like regarding Ethereum as a pure payment token. So there's way more functionality, utility you could say, that comes along with utility token than just pure payments. And in that regard, we also have settlement and access tokens, which, for example, very often, like many tokens fall into this category, which are used for centralized exchanges, for example, Binance Coin, BNB. If you hold BNB, you can not only pay your transaction fees on the Binance chain, but you can also use the BNB to basically get a discount on your transaction fees, and therefore by just holding the token you have access to certain benefits or perks that wouldn't be available without the token. So in the case of BNB, the Binance coin, we will talk about a settlement and access token, because the token not only can be used for the settlement of transactions, but also gives you access to certain perks. And in that regard, we come to the last category in the last class of the subcategory transactional utility tokens. This is the settlement and governance token. And here we have a lot of ecosystems again, which use a certain governance procedure involving their native token. Polkadot is here a very good example, but it has now become quite common practice that many ecosystems have a governance functionality that regulates, for example, the inflation for the staking rewards. So governance has become quite popular and is becoming even more popular, I think, in the near future. We can also see, for example, with IOTA at the moment that they are currently doing the first community vote, and therefore in the future, if there are more of them, we call it on-chain governance, we will also regard IOTA as a settlement and governance token. Second, we have the non-transactional utility tokens. I think here most interesting are certainly the governance token, which is, for example, the UN Finance token is here a very nice example, but there's certainly a lot of governance token, especially in the DeFi space. And these tokens are mainly used for, we call it exogenous governance. So you could regard proof of stake as a consensus mechanism where basically tokens, your stake in the whole protocol, basically are a part of the consensus mechanism. This could be regarded as this is regarded as endogenous governance, and at the same time there's also something called exogenous governance, on-chain governance under the use of smart contracts, where we basically decide with our tokens on how the protocol is governed and what changes need to be made. And this is actually it for now for the utility tokens. We have not too many access or ownership token listed so far. Access token, as you can already guess from the settlement and access token definition, is a token that gives you access to certain services. Power Ledger would be here a good example, but also, for example, Numeraire. Last, we come to the category of investment tokens. Yeah, many people always question or ask us why investment token and not security token. This has several reasons. First, security tokens is usually is a definition heavily based on national law. So this can differ between different jurisdictions. And second, we also have put into this category derivative tokens, which are, for example, very much used for the classification of the synthetics tokens. Synthetics is currently listing, I think, around 64 synthetics tokens that either replicate like real world commodities like oil, but there's also tokenized stocks, like for example Tesla has been tokenized for the synthetics network. And all of these tokens basically currently fall into the derivative token or other derivative token class. And at ITSA, in the working group of the ITC working group, we have been also classifying a lot of security tokens. Obviously there, fund tokens were quite prominent. This was in the form of just regular crypto funds, but there was also art funds where you basically bought one security token, and then the entity that you basically gave your money was constantly buying and collecting new art, and in that regard the token was basically functioning as a fund token. Further down we have obviously also debt tokens and entitlement rights and equity tokens, which makes our main category here. We have differentiated between debt style participation rights and equity style participation rights token, because this is still something that's very popular in the Germanic area, so in Germany, Austria and Switzerland, due to national law, which makes it like somewhat a special case. So we have also entailed this in this classification framework. And apart from that, obviously we also have regular bond token, warrant tokens, and regular share tokens, which also made up, I think, 50 to 60% of like the overall security tokens that we classified as at ITSA. We have also a security token list issued on our in the token base. So if you're interested in learning more about like all the security tokens that we had a look at, you can just enter the website and take a look there. It's quite interesting. We have also a list regarding the synthetic derivative tokens. So if this is something you're interested in DeFi, we have also a list providing all the information regarding those tokens. And finally, because I think I haven't spoken about that very much. But you can see right here below, we basically have a questionnaire, and this is also how we classify the tokens at ITSA. Usually for the classification work, we have students and some certain full-time employees, and they are helping us with the classification work. And to basically make the whole classification work easier, we are providing a certain questionnaire below here where you can see, for example, for the USD PEG payment token, the question would be first, is the token designed to serve as a generalist means of payment? We have yes. This is the case for all payment tokens, so for the whole category of payment tokens. Second, we have, is the value of the token pegged to the value of a single fiat currency that is a legal tender? And we have here again a yes for all fiat pegged payment tokens. And then finally we have, is the value of the token pegged to the US dollar, USD? Yes, and then we would classify this token as a USD pegged payment token. And I think I will provide certainly this this sheet also with the video, so that you can take a look yourself. We have also all the other dimensions listed here below if you're curious, if you want to take a look. But I can assure you, we will go through each dimension, and I will try to explain each of them as accurately as possible. And I hope that today's session with the economic purpose dimension gave you already some nice insights about what we do at ITSA and how we classify these tokens. If you're interested in participating, you can always drop us an email at team@itsa.global. We are always happy to have additional support, and I think also that this classification work is, even for experts, still quite rewarding, because you can learn a lot about the whole blockchain ecosystem, and certainly it's a very nice entry point also for beginners, because you get a really nice structured way of taking a look at all those tokens according to our dimensions. Yes, I hope you liked today's sessions. It's already over, and I wish you a nice day, and goodbye.